Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Siobhan and I'm part of the marketing team here at Incremental. I want to thank you all for joining our live event today, Safeguarding Your ERP Investment. So ERP failure is not uncommon. Hershey's, United States Navy, Nike, Lidl and Revlon are just a number of small global brands who have experienced costly ERP failures. And according to Gartner, between 55 and 75% of all ERP projects failed to meet their objectives, costing organisations time, money, and potentially future business. So how do organisations prevent ERP failure? In today's session, we're going to explore the role of people, processes, and technology in safeguarding ERP investment. So before we begin, I would like to introduce your panel today. Sorry, 2 seconds. Okay, so we have Jason Logan, who is Incremental's Head of Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. Jason has over 20 years of project management and transformation experience across a wide range of industries in both IT solution deployments and non-IT initiatives. Jason has led and managed the implementation of several ERP and CRM solutions across the NHS, government and public and private sector. Joining Jason today is Sam Dharmasiri, co-founder and CEO of Seer 365. Sam has a passion for improving business efficiency and productivity, and it was this passion that drove the creation of Seer 365, whose technology standardises, automates and accelerates key Microsoft Dynamics 365 project processes. And we're also delighted to have Kelly Tullouch join us today. Kelly is the ERP Director at Proserv, who's an Incremental customer. Kelly has been with Proserv for 13 years and has successfully implemented ERP solutions in almost 20 sites across 9 different countries. Proserv is currently embarking on its ERP legacy upgrade to Microsoft Dynamics 365, which Kelly will project manage. So before I hand you over to Jason, I just want to let you know that there will be an opportunity at the end to ask questions at the end of the session, so please feel free to submit these in the text box. So now let me hand you over to Jason.
Thanks, Siobhan. Firstly, thanks, Sam and Kelly, for joining us. Obviously, we're talking about ERP and the journey and all that type of stuff as well. So, look, we know there's quite a few webinars about discussing the pitfalls of ERP and what we should watch out for in terms of scope management, team management, also things like finance and time management as well. But for me, it's all about how we start off the journey of the ERP implementation. So for me, I'm a keen sportsman, so I'll just put a bit of a sport analogy for me on this one as well, is that today we're going to really talk about all the preparation that we need to do in preparation to start that journey. In the sport analogy, what do we need to do to make sure that we're fully prepared for that main event or the season ahead as well? So today what I really want to look at is that I've got sort of 3 pillars up on the screen at the moment. These 3 pillars is what we're going to discuss in terms of how we sort of make sure that we make the right start to our ERP change journey as well. So we're going to be talking about people, process and technology, and obviously as we go through this, we'll be leaning on Sam and also Kelly just to sort of give us some insight experience in terms of what they've been seeing through their many years of experience as well. Okay. So if we just start off with people to start off with, I want to really sort of touch on 2 components here, which is the sponsorship and ownership in the right team. If I talk about sponsorship just to start off with, this for me is the real key for us, is to make sure that we've got that top level drive to make sure that we are pushing forward with the ERP change and we understand the why. Now, obviously, a lot of these ERP changes will come from different sides of the business and different purposes as well. So many ERP implementations we deal with here, it can be driven by either an IT director or a finance director as well. But obviously what we want to make sure is, to start off with, is that we want that top to bottom sponsorship to make sure that everyone gets the buy-in, gets the prioritization of the job as well. So for me, we need someone or a group of people owning this change, because if it is just an IT sponsor or a finance sponsor, there are other areas of the ERP aspect that we need to consider at the same time as well. So just sort of quickly on that one there, Sam, in terms of, yeah, you've dealt with a lot of clients over many years there as well. So how important is this sort of the sponsorship concept in starting this change journey for our customers out there?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most critical aspects of a successful ERP or any business application deployment, to make sure somebody that's able to really make those key decisions and support the project team in pushing through that. I mean, the danger with, imagine what we're trying to do is to move the customer onto a new business application. We want them to work with, in our case, I guess, Dynamics 365. We want them to take use of the standard features as much as possible. And that may require some difficult decisions. It may require changes to how the business operates today. And it's not always feasible for the implementation team to make those decisions. We really want the business to own that. Equally, there are going to be times in the project where everybody's under pressure. There's other things going on in the business, and we need to make decisions around the priority of this project versus other things going on in the organisation. So I think having a good sponsor, having a good governance structure, making sure the frameworks are in place from the offset. I think they're kind of crucial to a successful project.
No, definitely, and I think some of those comments that you've just made there will probably flow in quite nicely with Kelly. So, Kelly, obviously we're just embarking on this ERP journey with you guys. So, what have you guys done over the last couple of months just to get the ownership right for your challenge?
So, at Proserv, our project sponsor is our CFO. So this has been really beneficial because ultimately the decision to move forward with a project like this, it comes down to balancing, the current needs and wants of the business, the potential improvements that a new system can bring, but all measured up against the cost. So by having our CFO as the sponsor, he's able to bring all of those elements together. And as he's discussed this at senior leadership meetings, while it was going through the approval process, he then brought on board all of his senior leaders from all of the functions across Proserv. And what this allowed was those function leads could go back out to the business early on and let them know, this is coming, this is what we expect to happen in the future, just get a little bit of chat around it. But ultimately, they were already bought into the fact that this was going to happen, and having that buy-in across the board and across all functions is really, really important, because it's then just, the core ERP team will come in and deliver the project, but they're not the ones that are being held responsible for driving the project. And it's not just, the ERP team want to upgrade our systems. It's driven by the business saying, look, this is what we're going to do to improve the business, improve the efficiencies. So it is just really important having that across the board buy-in early on, and having our CFO, someone at the top, leading that, has really, really helped to get everyone on board early on.
No, that's a really good example there, how you guys are using the CFO and his capability to bring people together because of his leadership position in the organisation as well. But I think the other point, which moves into sort of discussing the other element of people, which is getting the right team, is quite key there as well. So we're talking top to bottom, but there is definitely a bottom to top input that's needed as part of this ERP journey as well. So having those people out in the field, those people that do those day-to-day jobs as well, we need those people to have a say and have an impact and an influence on what the ERP change journey will look like, making sure, because they can give us the detail on where the challenges are on a day-to-day basis. They can give us the detail on what their business needs are, and get them to think about the future instead of sort of backwards thinking and trying to stop us bringing over inefficiencies from the existing system as well. So I think this is all quite critical to get the right team in there as well. And the ERP journey is new for a lot of people as well. So Kelly, what are you guys doing there at Proserv to sort of get get that right buying as well, and listening to the people that are out there in the field and doing those day-to-day jobs for you guys?
So although we at Proserv, we have a dedicated ERP team who we've had basically in place since we did the last implementation. And as an ERP team, we have people in that team who deal with the functional processes. There's myself, I'm an accountant, so I deal a lot with looking at the back end of how all of the transactions post in the system, what they do. But the best place to start is with the people that, like you say, are actually using the system and what are they doing day to day, and getting the feedback from them into what is taking too much time, what is an inefficiency, what works really well, and building up a picture across the board of exactly the where we can look to put improvements in, where we can make things better. It is equally as important that it's getting the balance right between people just having a moan and people who are actually genuinely invested in making a difference and making this better. So what we tend to do is we sort of go down a level where we find people that are sort of heads of different departments, and we get them to go out to their staff and gather up everybody's thoughts and then feed them back to us in the ERP team, so that we get sort of a wider view of what are the main things that lots of people are bringing up that need to be improved, or things that actually work well and we don't want to change, etc. So it is really important, like you say, to get down at that bottom level and get that fed right up the chain so that we can ultimately make a difference and make things more efficient and better for the majority of people in the workforce.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think before we sort of move on to the next pillar there, I think, there's a couple of key points there that we spoke about, but yeah, I think we're all in agreement that we need someone from the organisation to own this change journey. That is one of the biggest, that is the key element there, and making sure that they have got the delegated authority to bring people together and make decisions right at the top and have their impact on what Sam was talking about, is how we prioritise the ERP implementation against BAU and getting that balance right. So that's quite key. And the other key element from the people side was getting the right people involved at the right time as part of that journey. So we can't rely on all the top level directors knowing everything about the day-to-day side. So people's those two elements are quite key. We want to just move on to sort of process quickly as well. So for me, there's a couple of elements to the process. It's number one, it's really building the vision and goals and around why we are trying to achieve your ERP implementation. Because at the end of the day, like I think what Kelly was talking about there was quite nice in terms of, we want to understand where we can bring some efficiencies and things like that as well. But we need to make sure that how do we actually measure efficiency, and how are we actually going to identify why we are actually putting in this ERP implementation as well. So that for me is quite key, because for me, we need to make sure across your organisation from top to bottom to top, there is an alignment of the reasons why we're doing this and what we're trying to achieve from it as well. So those processes and understanding the day-to-day stuff needs to lean into building that right vision and goals as well. Sam, obviously, what's your sort of experience in terms of working with a whole lot of different type of clients? Doesn't matter what industry, about going in there and making sure that they have this realistic sort of vision and goals before they even start on this journey.
Yeah. It's quite a fascinating area, this one, really, because you can look at when a customer looks at embarking on a project like that. So you kind of have two, I guess, extremes. At one end, you can kind of go down to the minutiae and have a list of. I remember doing one project where we were given a list of 12,000 features that we had to deliver in a project, and gradually ticking them off. And as you get through that process, you're not necessarily sure whether you're actually adding business value, just doing a big tick list of requirements. So I think that's good. It's important to understand the core requirements at a feature level, but I think it's important to also understand what are the business transformation goals, what are the KPIs we're trying to achieve once we deploy this new technology, and that may be as few as 5 to 10 key business goals that we want to drive through this change process, and maybe judging the project success on that rather than achieving 12,000 individual feature requirements. So I think that's kind of my experience is trying to set those business goals and visions, and how are we going to perform and measuring that level.
I think you've given a couple of good examples there, Sam, is that you can have goals in terms of what we're trying to achieve from the project, but that shouldn't be really a tick list approach, because at the end of the day, the ERP is a catalyst in terms of adding to your transformation, and it is that piece there as well. So which sort of really, before, as a part, once we sort of know what that vision is, then we can start understanding the business processes, because for me, it's very key that the why, which I started at the start of this section, is really about why are we doing this and what are we actually trying to improve. So talking about what you were talking about, Sam, is that if we want to have a realistic goal of improving our automation and get invoices out much quicker, well, if that will be an ultimate goal of the ERP, but we need to understand our business processes and challenges to meet that goal, and how can ERP do that as well. So for me, it's very key that as a part of setting these goals, we need to understand our business processes, which is quite critical as well. So Kelly, can you just talk about, in terms of what you guys are doing to sort of align your business processes to setting the goals of what you're trying to achieve from your ERP implementation?
So having obviously gone through a global implementation before, we've learned a lot from past experience. So we struggle a lot with, at the minute, getting decent reporting out of AX12 that we're on at the minute, and a lot of that is down to the fact that we've heavily customized the system. The reason it was heavily customized is because as we went round site by site, each site wanted to do something just a little bit differently, because this is the way that we did it before. And I think we were too lenient in terms of just then building the system around how they used to get from A to B in a process, rather than just saying, here's how the system gets us from A to B. This is now what Proserv will adopt as the process. So it's really, really critical to understand your processes globally and across all of your sites, etc., before you start, and then understanding how the system deals with those processes. And that might mean that you do need to make some changes along the way, but I think it's definitely the best way forward. Another thing, we use Power BI, so we use Power BI reporting for a lot of our data, and when we started using that, there wasn't really any rhyme or reason or control over who created reports, what reports were used for, and now we've ended up with a suite of over 450 reports. We have a project underway at the minute to curtail that and start to actually pick out which are the most relevant reports. These are the reports that should now start to be used globally, because every site they report the same way, so they should be looking at the same information. So, we have digital reporting is absolutely the way forward, but we have so many ways of twisting and turning our data that it really is important that once you know your processes and you get those processes documented, that your reporting is then controlled also, so that everybody is actually seeing relevant and correct information displayed the way that it needs to be displayed, without individuals just sort of tweaking things here and there. Because you can, if people start to feel that reporting can't be relied on, then that's when the integrity just disappears.
Yeah, so I think that's fed in quite well there. So I think what Kelly sort of described there is avoiding that misalignment in terms of what we're trying to achieve, and through some of the strategic goals of an ERP change is, how do we make it simple? How do we get the commonalities across, especially on global organisations like yourself there, Kelly, that's quite key as well. So yeah, there's some really good points there, but yeah, getting aligned across all your different operating companies is definitely one of a common strategic goal for ERP implementations. The other aspect that we need to consider before we sort of start on that ERP path is really about technology, and I think we've come across many organisations who are sort of really sometimes back in the Stone Ages and don't really understand the technology, but technology will have a huge impact on your ERP journey. So it's very critical to sort of understand what is the Microsoft Azure cloud, what does all this mean, and what will that mean, not just for your end users, but what does that mean for your IT services as well. So there's all these elements that we need to start thinking of, and and just probably leaning on Sam here a little bit as well. So it's Sam, obviously you've seen a lot of difference in terms of how we need to consider the technology element as part of our sort of ERP change journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is, a very important point now. If you look at when I first got into deploying ERP systems, very much in that on-premise world, and customers deployed a system, sat on it for 7 to 10 years, and then did an upgrade and started all over again. We're kind of at a stage where if we go into the cloud world, you are on a journey where your software author in Microsoft, they will update you on a monthly, 6-monthly basis. You have to take those updates. You have to make sure your business can absorb those updates, and actually it's not a bad thing. You are taking advantage of new features that Microsoft are incorporating into the products, and that brings about a number of things that an organization needs to look at. What's their project team structure? That project team needs to cover both the implementation but also that continuous acceptance of new features. So we kind of coined the concept continuous delivery, and really start to think about that as a way that you can drive more benefits into the organization. So it's definitely something that needs to be thought about. There's a lot of ancillary technologies. I looked at a Microsoft slide the other day where there's me thinking there's 3 products that Microsoft have in the business application space, and there's actually about 28. So we start adding all those different things that we can really consume. It's quite exciting, but also it's a process that customers need to ensure they have process and the people in place to take those on board.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the big one, Sam. I think what we've seen here, and I'm sure Kelly can attest to this as well, and she's mentioned this before about all these customizations in AX12, and it was taking a lot of maintenance for that. But in today's world, we're staying away from customizations as much as possible. We want to make sure that we do take advantage of this continuous development of the products that are there for us as well. So it's very key on that element as well, which sort of leads into my sort of other point around the technology. So there's a lot of organizations where they'll go, we have no idea about this, or I can read things on the internet and try and learn myself. But obviously having the right partners to guide you through this process, to help you with the technology, align technology to your business needs, align technology to your business strategic vision as well, is very key for that as well. So Kelly, can you just probably talk to us about sort of the partnerships, obviously incremental in you guys, but obviously different partnerships that you've sort of looked at as well to help keep driving your critical part of the ERP implementation?
Yeah, so obviously when we implemented last time, we used Incremental as a partner then. Now, at the very, very start of our implementation, we didn't have a partner on board, and we'd just sort of gotten little bits of help even there. And the very first go live that we did was not very successful. So I think the project was halted. We then reached out to Incremental, started up a partnership, and they were with us for the 2 years, I think, that it took us to do our global implementation. And it was absolutely integral to the success of the project. I feel myself, having been through an implementation, that I can offer advice, and based on my experience of just one implementation. So I think it is so important to lean on the experience of your partner, you guys, Incremental, who have done this hundreds of times, because you as a business, you know what you want, you know where you need to get to, but you also don't know what you don't know. So there's a lot of functionality and advice and recommendations out there that you wouldn't even know about unless your partner is introducing you to them and telling you about them. As well as, so as we spoke about, we don't want to customize the system as such, but there are perhaps elements that we need external products to bolt on to D365 to cover some of the elements of our business. And so again, having a partner like you guys at Incremental allows us to get advice and recommendations about what other out-of-the-box products exist out there that would work alongside D365 to cover the areas of our business that perhaps the core system doesn't. So I just think it's really important to have a partner involved very early on, build up that relationship, build up that trust, and then really use that partner going forward, because that's what they're there for. There's nobody else out there that's going to know more about what the system can do for your business than these guys that work on it every single day.
Definitely. No, absolutely agree on that one as well. So I think, obviously we're restarting the D365 implementation, and there's, you guys are sort of adapting to needing to stick to out of the box standard functionality now, rather than trying to satisfy everyone's little nooks and crannies and try to bring over old inefficiencies as well. So yeah, that's going to be a great challenge for us moving forward as well. But obviously, yeah, we've sort of touched on the people, the process, and the technology, those sort of three pillars to consider even before we get onto that ERP change journey. So it'll definitely shape in terms of how we approach that. Now, obviously, Incremental and Seer have sort of joined forces and are working with Seer on with a number of their products, and Guide Discover is actually helping us and a number of customers in order to sort of identify all these little things that we've spoken about already much earlier in the piece as well. So we don't sort of sign the commercial agreement, then we start discussing these things. We'll actually be able to sort of start driving a more of a business consultancy kind of approach to understand all this and bring this all out in the open much earlier in the piece to structure what the journey could look like for them as well. So Sam, do you want to just give a quick overview in terms of how Seer is working with and how Incremental and us will be driving this forward, moving forward into the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So Guide 365 Discover is one of the products that we have that we work with partners such as Incremental to deploy to their customers. And the goal with Discover actually was based on my team and myself, our experience over the past 20 years selling and deploying Dynamics and other ERP products really is one of the biggest challenges of making sure if we captured the customer's requirements in a way that we all understand. Sometimes the customer has their own language, we have our own language, and sometimes there's misunderstanding. So and making sure we captured all the scope details, all the integrations, all the interfaces, all the data migration points. And we captured the business KPI needs and the pain points that they have. So what we've kind of done is we probably had tons of spreadsheets that had all this information in various places, and sometimes we might forget to complete a document. What Guide Discover does is puts it all into one place. So we complete a set of survey questions through an application, asking questions that the customer can fill in, and we can automatically then on requirement questions assess, how does core Dynamics deal with that? Is it a fit? Is it a partial fit? Is it something we want to discuss with the customer further to get more detail? But we sort of focus on the areas in which we know that perhaps Dynamics isn't 100%, and therefore we can either suggest alternative solutions, or maybe even the customer can say, actually, that's not such an important requirement, we can drop that one and maybe do things in a different way. So getting all those things raised up front and being really open about it, rather than waiting 4 or 5 months into a project and then it becomes a major issue. So that's really kind of our goal with Discover, and it's great to be working with partners like Incremental who are making their own industry flavors of it, adding their own expertise. What we do hope it allows Incremental to focus their time on the key 20%. So let the application do the heavy lifting, and then that leaves more time for Jason and your team to focus on the really important bits that we need to find before we go into a project.
No, definitely no. And I think it has been working as well. And obviously we've just gone through the process with yourself there, Kelly, as well. So it was, we thought that this was going to be a good approach with you guys, obviously coming from the upgrade from AX12 to D365 as well. Can you just talk to us a little bit about how you guys found it and how you guys have used it for sort of the upcoming sort of workshops that we've been doing with you guys?
Yeah, I would fully agree with what Sam described there. So we got the questionnaires through, we filled out all of the questions, and it really gives you an insight into what the potential functionality of D365 could be in the future. At Proserv, we're sort of taking the approach at the minute that if we can shift from AX12 to D365 with the same functionality as we currently have at the minute, give or take 10%, then after we're sort of upgraded, we move on and get some of the other wins out there that exist that we currently don't use. However, what the surveys, the guide surveys allowed us to do was see what the future potential might be. And by being able to go through and just highlight, well, this is something we need now, this is something we'd like to consider for the future. What that then allowed is that now that we've gotten into the stage below that, where we're in the workshops with incremental, the workshops are very focused individually based on the outputs of that survey. Now, if we were to go into that workshop without having done the survey, the workshop could be, hours long for us to go through every single one of those questions and decide what we need, what we don't need. Whereas the way that it's been done, it means that those workshops, for the 2-3 hours that you're sitting in there, they're really focused, they're really driven, because the team in there already know what we need to focus on now and what we maybe just need to touch on slightly for the future considerations. So it was, really, really beneficial and a great way to utilize the precious time that all of these things take. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I think on that point, quite critical as well, is that I don't think we don't, there's the budgets to do the old school whiteboarding, what do you want days are definitely gone as well. So yeah, helping, like what Sam said, the survey helps us stick to standard, aligns with D365 quite nicely, and like you said, we can be a lot more bespoke and really focus on some of the key points that we need to elaborate a little bit on, and sort of challenge the inefficiencies, or allow you guys to think of something a little bit more out of the box that you guys weren't aware of to start off with as well. So that is helping a lot for us as well. I think we've sort of come to the end there. I just want to sort of just summarize quickly some key points there. So I think we sort of started off with those 3 pillars, but for me, I think 5 key takeaways for me is have that top leadership sort of buy-in right from the start. So have that captain of the team, captain of the ship, to really drive and bring people on the journey. I think that's going to be quite key as well. Number 2 is, listen to people. I think Kelly gave a good example of CFO bringing people together to go and get that information as well, because obviously, not everyone knows everything. So, there's probably some superstars out there you don't even know of that have got some experience in ERP implementations and things like that. So it's quite key to, bring people onto that journey, but talk to those people that are out in the field as well. Make sure we've got a clear vision and goals for the ERP. And obviously what we want to make sure is that those clear goals for what we're trying to achieve enable us to sort of drive efficiencies and commonalities, especially on multiple global rollouts like what Kelly's facing at the moment as well. Understand your business needs is going to be quite key as well. So that's where incremental and Seer can help as well. And then obviously the last one was working with our partner is quite key. And we can bring that expertise, not just of Microsoft, but we can bring that business consultancy expertise and use Microsoft technology to help facilitate what the end journey or what your ERP change journey is going to look like as well. So that's quite key for us as well. Thanks, Siobhan. Don't know if there's any sort of questions around the place there, Siobhan, for us.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I think we have time for a couple of questions that have come through. The first one, I guess, is for Sam. Sam, the question is, how can Guide Discover help organisations who are constantly in dispute about consolidating processes?
Sure, yeah, that's a good question. So that's one that There are many ways of dealing with this. I think the best way that we find is to give each entity their own guide survey. So if you've got an organisation with multiple entities, either within one region or within different countries, give them a survey each, and then we can consolidate those responses through our BI application. We can start to see where the common requirements are and where those are conflicting or different requirements. And those are the ones we focus our time on in terms of trying to get to common ground. And sometimes you can't get to common ground because there's the specific regional requirements, either legal, fiscal or operational, that we need to adhere to. But at least it allows us to do that rather than, I've had workshops where I've had people flying from 6 different countries and we spend a week together, and it's not a great use of time. We can focus and hone in on those unique areas. So that's a good way to do those sorts of exercises.
Perfect, thanks, Sam. Another question that we have, Jason, how can Incremental help organisations be fully prepared to start their ERP change journey?
Yeah, I think that's that's an interesting one as well. So I think I've sort of mentioned it previously. I think, Microsoft partners, delivery partners like ourselves, we just not focus on the technology. Technology is the catalyst to drive that change as well. So for us, we can help organisations start to think about, if they're just starting to think about the ERP journey, we can come in with Seer and, we can give them discover, we can do workshops with them just to understand what the roadmap is going to look like as well, and how to achieve it as well. We've got bumps and bruises as well with the customers who have done this in the past, so we can definitely set that up as well. So I think for me, it's even before sort of a lot of customers do go through an RFP process, there's nothing wrong with bringing partners in before then to help sort of shift that, and making sure that before they go into that RFP process, that they are looking at people that can come in and deliver against their business needs and provide solutions for their business needs, rather than providing system requirements, which Sam was touching on before. We shouldn't be going through a tick list. We should be driving business needs as well. So I think that's the key thing where Incremental can come in and help with Seer as well.
Okay, thanks, Jason. We are almost out of time. There is a couple more questions, but I can assure you we will respond directly to those questions that have come through after the webinar. I'd like to thank the panel today for sharing your insight and all your experience. It's been a great session. We hope you, the viewer, also found it valuable and insightful. There will be a recording of the webinar sent to you later today, and if you've got any further questions or you want to reach out to Incremental to talk about your own ERP journey, then please get in touch. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.